Hey there, today we will dive into the grand theory behind who, or better yet what, built the Egyptian pyramids. When we think about the Egyptian pyramids, our minds almost immediately drift to the desert sands of Giza, where three enormous stone giants rise out of the earth, older than nearly every other monument still standing in our world. They are not just tombs, not just piles of stone. These are symbols that have haunted human imagination for thousands of years, and yet for all the study, for all the research, for all the exploration, the truth about how and why they were built remains one of the most compelling mysteries in human history. Tonight, I want to take you on a journey through everything we know, everything we suspect, and everything people have wondered about the pyramids of Egypt. Some of it is science, some of it is myth, and some of it teeters on the edge of conspiracy theory. But all of it is fascinating. The scientific study of the pyramids began in earnest in the 19th century, led primarily by European explorers and antiquarians. Some of these men were careful surveyors, such as Flinders Petrie, who set a new standard in archaeology with his meticulous measurements. Petrie was among the first to reveal that the Great Pyramid's base was not a rough approximation but astonishingly accurate, with the difference in length between its sides amounting to mere inches. He recorded that the entire structure was aligned almost perfectly to true north, a feat that would require either incredible skill in stellar observation or the use of surveying tools whose sophistication still stirs debate. Petrie's work laid the foundation for understanding that the pyramids were not the work of primitive builders, but of a civilization with mathematical and engineering knowledge that rivaled later cultures. Other explorers, however, approached the pyramids with less care and more destruction. Early treasure hunters blasted through stone in search of gold, often damaging or even obliterating whatever lay inside. The belief persisted for centuries that the pyramids must contain fabulous wealth, hidden caches of treasure waiting to be uncovered. Yet time and again explorers were met with empty chambers, or at best modest grave goods compared to what was later found in tombs like that of Tutankhamun. This absence of treasures has long fueled speculation. Were the pyramids looted in antiquity? Were they never meant to contain wealth at all? Or did they serve a purpose entirely different from what mainstream Egyptology has suggested? The debate over purpose is perhaps the most tantalizing. The orthodox view remains that the pyramids were built as tombs for the kings. This is supported by the funerary texts, the sarcophagi found within, and the broader cultural obsession of ancient Egypt with death and the afterlife. And yet, curiously, no intact mummy has ever been found inside a pyramid of Giza. The sarcophagi are empty, their lids displaced, their interiors barren. If these structures were truly tombs, where are the bodies? Some scholars argue that looters removed the mummies and their grave goods thousands of years ago. This is certainly possible. Egypt has a long history of tomb robbery. Even in antiquity, pharaohs sent officials to punish looters who disturbed the resting places of the dead. Yet others point to an alternative possibility, that the pyramids were not tombs in the traditional sense at all, but rather symbolic resurrection machines. In this interpretation, the pharaoh's physical body may have been interred elsewhere, while the pyramid served as a metaphysical device to ensure his soul's rebirth in the afterlife. This idea is supported by the extraordinary alignment of the structures with stars, solstices, and cardinal directions. A tomb needs only to house the body, but the pyramids appear designed to interact with the cosmos itself. Consider again the shafts in the Great Pyramid, pointing toward Orion and Sirius. To the Egyptians, Orion was Osiris, lord of the underworld and god of resurrection, while Sirius was associated with Isis, goddess of rebirth. In this way, the pyramid was not just a final resting place, it was a ladder to the heavens, a cosmic launch pad for the soul of the pharaoh. And if that was the case, then every element of its design, from the proportions to the choice of materials, may have held symbolic as well as practical significance. Granite, for instance, was associated with eternal strength, while limestone, bright and white, reflected the radiance of the sun. Every detail may have been imbued with religious meaning. This opens the door to even more speculative theories. Some fringe researchers propose that the pyramids were not tombs at all but giant energy devices, harnessing natural forces of the earth. They point to the fact that the Giza Plateau sits atop significant geological fault lines and underground water sources. When water flows through porous limestone under pressure, it can generate a form of electrical charge known as piezoelectricity. Could the pyramids have been designed to amplify or channel this energy? The granite used in the king's chamber contains quartz crystals, which are known for their piezoelectric properties. While mainstream scholars dismiss this as pseudoscience, the idea that the pyramids could have served some unknown technological function continues to intrigue many who study their design. Even more tantalizing is the so-called pyramid code, a theory suggesting that the dimensions of the Great Pyramid encode mathematical constants and measurements of the Earth itself. For example, the pyramid's perimeter, when divided by its height, produces a value close to 2 phi, the mathematical relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter. Others argue that the dimensions reflect the golden ratio, a proportion often associated with beauty and harmony in nature. Some researchers claim the base of the pyramid encodes the length of the solar year, while others go further, suggesting it contains knowledge of the size of the Earth or even the distance to the Sun. Could it be that the Egyptians embedded a kind of scientific knowledge into stone, preserving it for eternity? Or are these numerical coincidences the product of modern minds searching for patterns where none were intended? Of course, we must also address one of the most persistent alternative theories, the possibility of outside influence in the construction of the pyramids. Some suggest that the sheer scale, precision, and astronomical alignment of the structures are beyond the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians, proposing instead that they were aided or even directed by an advanced lost civilization or extraterrestrial visitors. This idea, while popular in documentaries and books, is widely rejected by Egyptologists. There is, after all, a clear evolutionary path of pyramid building in Egypt, beginning with the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara and evolving over generations into the smooth-sided forms we see at Giza. The mistakes and experiments of earlier pyramids, like the bent pyramid at Dashur, show a trial-and-error process, one that suggests very human builders learning and refining their craft. Still, the alien hypothesis persists in popular culture, a reminder that the pyramids continue to inspire wonder and disbelief in equal measure. In modern times, new technologies have opened up fresh avenues of discovery. Ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, and muon tomography have revealed anomalies within the Great Pyramid, hidden cavities and voids whose purpose remains unknown. In 2017, researchers announced the discovery of a large hidden chamber above the Grand Gallery, undisturbed for thousands of years. Its contents, if any, remain a mystery. Is it a structural necessity, relieving weight from the chambers below? Or is it a hidden chamber, deliberately concealed, perhaps still holding secrets from the time of Khufu? For now it is sealed, a riddle waiting to be solved. The pyramids also continue to surprise us in ways that are less mysterious, but no less remarkable. Recent studies have shown that the builders aligned the Great Pyramid to true north with incredible precision, possibly by tracking the movements of the circumpolar stars. Others have noted that the layout of the 3 pyramids of Giza resembles the stars of Orion's belt, though whether this was intentional or coincidental remains hotly debated. Archaeologists have also discovered traces of pigments on the pyramids, suggesting that some parts may once have been painted, adding another dimension to how they appeared in the ancient landscape. In the end, the pyramids are not a single story but many stories layered together. They are monuments to human ambition, to engineering, to religion, to myth. They are repositories of ancient science and symbols of eternity. They are tombs, temples, machines, mysteries, all at once. Perhaps their greatest power lies not in what we know about them, but in what we do not know. For every answer uncovered, new questions emerge, keeping the pyramids forever alive in the human imagination. They stand today, as they have for more than 4 millennia, guardians of secrets, silent witnesses to the rise and fall of empires, to the march of time itself. And whether they are seen as tombs, as stairways to the heavens, as repositories of hidden knowledge, or even as relics of a forgotten science, one truth endures: the pyramids of Egypt remain one of the most extraordinary achievements in the history of humankind. And perhaps in their silence they are still speaking to us, if only we can learn how to listen. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the pyramids entered a new age of study. No longer were they merely the domain of explorers and adventurers, but of teams of scientists armed with increasingly sophisticated tools. One of the most fascinating approaches has been the use of acoustics. Researchers noticed long ago that the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid produces peculiar resonances when sound is generated inside it. The granite walls containing crystalline quartz vibrate in ways that seem to amplify certain frequencies. Some experiments suggest that the chamber naturally resonates at around 440 Hz, close to the modern musical standard for tuning. Whether this resonance was intentional or a coincidence of design remains uncertain, but it opens up intriguing questions. Could ancient builders have been aware of how sound behaves within stone chambers? And if so, could rituals or chants performed inside have been enhanced by this effect, adding a supernatural dimension to their ceremonies? Thermal imaging has also provided new puzzles. In 2015, an international team used infrared thermography to scan the surface of the Great Pyramid. What they found startled them. Certain stones showed unexplained differences in temperature, suggesting that voids or anomalies lie behind them. One such hotspot appeared on the eastern side, near ground level, raising the possibility of hidden passageways or chambers yet undiscovered. These findings reignited debates about whether the pyramids still conceal secrets after more than 4,500 years. Perhaps the most dramatic discovery of recent years came in 2017 with the application of muon tomography, a technique that uses cosmic rays to peer inside massive structures. This scan revealed a vast, previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid. Measuring at least 30 meters long, it is the first significant internal discovery in centuries. Its function remains a mystery. Some argue it could simply be a structural cavity, relieving pressure on the gallery below. Others wonder if it could be a deliberately hidden chamber, perhaps intended to safeguard the pharaoh's soul, or even to house objects never meant for human eyes. Its inaccessibility, sealed behind walls of stone, only deepens the mystery. Beyond the internal structure, new research has examined the geological context of the pyramids. The Giza Plateau sits atop layers of limestone interspersed with fossilized remains of ancient seas. Beneath the surface, aquifers and underground channels of water are known to exist. Some theorists propose that this natural environment may have influenced the builder's choice of location, either for symbolic reasons, the Nile and water being central to Egyptian cosmology, or for more practical purposes, such as a stable foundation. Others have gone further, arguing that the combination of water flow and quartz-rich granite could create subtle electromagnetic effects which the pyramids might have been designed to harness. Though mainstream scholars remain skeptical, these theories keep alive the possibility that the pyramids served functions beyond the funerary. Experimental archaeology has also shed new light on how these structures were built. In the 1990s, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a radical new theory, that the Great Pyramid was constructed using an internal spiral ramp. According to his model, the builders did not drag stones up vast external ramps, which would have been impractically long, but instead hauled them through an ascending passage that wound upward inside the pyramid itself. Computer simulations and 3D models showed that this was feasible, and some thermal imaging scans revealed anomalies that might support the presence of such an internal ramp. While unproven, Houdin's theory offers one of the most elegant solutions to the long-debated question of logistics. Meanwhile, other experiments have explored the transport of blocks. Archaeologists in the desert have attempted to drag heavy stones across sand, finding that pouring water on the sand dramatically reduces friction, making it much easier to pull sledges laden with stone. This simple discovery aligns with ancient Egyptian wall paintings that show workers pouring liquid before moving statues, suggesting the Egyptians understood and applied this principle. Such insights remind us that the builders may not have needed lost technologies or alien assistance, but rather possessed a sophisticated grasp of physics and ingenuity born of necessity. Modern discoveries have also forced us to reconsider the visual appearance of the pyramids. Today they appear as weathered, sandy-colored monuments, their outer casing stones largely gone. But in antiquity, the pyramids were sheathed in gleaming white Tura limestone, polished smooth to a mirror-like finish. Some scholars believe that the Great Pyramid, in its completed state, would have shone like a beacon under the desert sun, visible for miles. Others speculate that the casing may have been angled to reflect moonlight, linking the pyramid not only to Ra, the sun god, but to Thoth, the moon god associated with wisdom and time. This vision of the pyramids as radiant, glowing mountains transforms how we imagine their presence in the ancient landscape. There is also the question of color. Recent discoveries in other Egyptian sites suggest that bright pigments were used to decorate statues, temples, and even tombs. While little direct evidence of paint survives on the pyramids themselves, some archaeologists believe that at least certain areas may have been accented with red ochre or other colors, perhaps for ceremonial or symbolic reasons. If true, the pyramids would not have been monochrome, but part of a richly colored religious world. At the intersection of science and speculation, one particularly striking idea concerns the proportions of the Great Pyramid. Some researchers argue that its dimensions encode not only pi and the golden ratio, but also the circumference of the Earth. If the pyramid's perimeter is scaled appropriately, it corresponds almost exactly to the equatorial circumference of the planet. Similarly, its height relates to the Earth's radius. This has led some to suggest that the builders possessed knowledge of the Earth as a sphere, knowledge we usually associate with Greek mathematicians 2,000 years later. Mainstream Egyptology disputes this, attributing such correlations to coincidence. Yet the precision of the measurements continues to inspire debate. Finally, the cultural afterlife of the pyramids is as important as their ancient purpose. For millennia, they have been objects of fascination for travelers, scholars, and mystics. To the Greeks, they were wonders of the world, monuments to kings who aspired to immortality. To medieval Arab scholars, they were repositories of hidden wisdom, perhaps built before the flood by a race of sages. In the Renaissance, they became symbols of the esoteric, inspiring alchemists and occultists who believed they contained cosmic secrets. Today, they are both icons of tourism and focal points for New Age theories, ranging from sacred geometry to healing energies. This enduring fascination demonstrates that the pyramids are not static relics of the past, but dynamic symbols that continue to evolve in meaning. What is clear is that the pyramids are more than just piles of stone. They embody layers of meaning, religious, political, astronomical, mathematical, and perhaps even energetic. They are a dialogue between humanity and eternity, stone and sky. They are at once a reflection of ancient Egypt's mastery and a mirror of our own imagination. As science advances, we may peel back new layers of their mystery, but perhaps they will never be fully explained. And in that sense, their true power may not lie in answers at all, but in their ability to inspire questions that keep us looking up at those colossal silhouettes against the desert sky, wondering just how much of the truth still sleeps within them. In the modern imagination, the pyramids have become something far more than tombs. For many, they are not simply monuments of stone but artifacts of a forgotten science, devices that once harnessed the powers of the cosmos, or even the handiwork of civilizations lost to history. While mainstream Egyptology tends to dismiss such theories as unfounded speculation, they have persisted for centuries, and in some ways they speak to the universal awe these structures provoke. To ignore them would be to ignore one of the most fascinating dimensions of the pyramids' legacy, their role as canvases for human imagination and alternative thought. One of the most widely discussed fringe ideas is that the pyramids were never tombs at all, but energy devices. Proponents of this theory point to the structure of the Great Pyramid, its alignment with true north, and its incorporation of granite chambers containing quartz crystals. They argue that the pyramid may have been designed to channel natural forces, such as Earth's electromagnetic energy or even cosmic radiation. Some suggest that water flowing beneath the plateau created vibrations that resonated with the granite, producing piezoelectric effects. In this vision, the Great Pyramid becomes a kind of ancient power plant, designed to gather, amplify, and perhaps transmit energy. Though no definitive evidence supports such claims, the theory persists because of the precision of the pyramid's construction and the sense that it is too perfect to be a mere tomb. Closely related are theories linking the pyramids to sacred geometry and mathematics. Many point out that the pyramid's proportions reflect not only pi and the golden ratio, but also appear to encode values associated with planetary cycles, distances between celestial bodies, and even Earth's circumference. Some argue that this precision is no accident, but proof of a hidden knowledge system, one that predates the Egyptians themselves. According to this perspective, the pyramids were repositories of universal wisdom, designed to survive cataclysm and preserve cosmic truths. The idea appeals to those who see the pyramids not as isolated cultural achievements, but as part of a global network of sacred sites built according to the same geometric code. This global perspective fuels another powerful idea, that the pyramids are part of an ancient grid of power mapped onto the Earth itself. Enthusiasts point to alignments between the Giza pyramids and other monuments worldwide, such as Teotihuacan in Mexico or certain megalithic structures in South America. They argue that these sites form geometric patterns on the globe, possibly functioning as nodes in a forgotten planetary energy system. From this view, the pyramids were not simply local monuments, but components of a grand, interconnected design stretching across continents. While mainstream scholars regard such alignments as coincidences, the striking similarities between widely separated cultures, such as the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica and the stone monuments of Egypt, fuel suspicions that more was at play than chance. Astronomical theories add yet another layer of intrigue. Beyond the well-documented alignments to Orion's belt, fringe researchers argue that the pyramids encode predictions of future celestial events. The so-called Orion correlation theory suggests that the three pyramids were designed not only to mirror the stars but also to serve as a cosmic calendar, one that tracks the precession of the equinoxes over thousands of years. Some interpret this as evidence that the builders possessed an advanced knowledge of astronomy, rivaling or surpassing our own. Others take the idea further, claiming that the pyramids may even have been constructed as markers of a celestial catastrophe, a warning to future generations of cycles of destruction, such as floods, comet impacts, or pole shifts. Perhaps the most sensational theories suggest that the pyramids are far older than mainstream archaeology claims. Conventional wisdom dates the Great Pyramid to around 2500 BCE, during the reign of Khufu. Yet some fringe theorists argue that weathering patterns on the Sphinx and evidence of water erosion on the plateau suggest that the monuments may predate dynastic Egypt by thousands of years. In this view, the pyramids could be remnants of a much earlier, advanced civilization, sometimes identified with Atlantis, sometimes with a lost prehistoric culture. If true, the pyramids might not represent the pinnacle of Egyptian achievement, but the inherited legacy of an unknown people whose knowledge was later absorbed and mythologized by the pharaohs. It is within this context that extraterrestrial theories emerge, popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken in the 20th century. These ideas propose that the pyramids were built with the guidance or even direct intervention of alien visitors. Advocates argue that the sheer precision of the structures, their enormous scale, and the supposed impossibility of their construction with Bronze Age tools point to outside assistance. Some go so far as to suggest that the pyramids functioned as beacons or landing markers for spacecraft. While mainstream scholars dismiss such claims outright, the alien theory continues to captivate the public imagination, in part because it offers an explanation for mysteries that archaeology has not fully resolved. Equally provocative are theories about the pyramids as portals or resonant devices. Some suggest that the chambers were designed to induce altered states of consciousness, either for initiates or priests. The acoustics of the king's chamber, combined with its precise geometry, may have created an environment in which sound, vibration, and ritual combined to produce visionary experiences. Others claim that the pyramids were built as stargates, openings between worlds where human beings could commune with divine entities or even travel beyond the earth. Such ideas blur the line between science fiction and metaphysics, but they resonate with the pyramid's role as liminal structures, thresholds between life and death, earth and sky, mortal and divine. In modern times, these fringe theories have only gained traction thanks to new technologies. Every fresh anomaly, a thermal hotspot, a hidden void detected by cosmic rays, seems to breathe new life into alternative interpretations. Where Egyptologists see structural cavities or practical solutions, others see the remnants of advanced machinery or hidden chambers guarding forbidden knowledge. In this sense, the pyramids function as a kind of mirror, reflecting not only the mysteries of the past but also the hopes and fears of the present. It is worth noting that even if these fringe ideas are not scientifically accepted, they fulfill an important cultural role. They keep the pyramids alive in the collective imagination, ensuring that they are not merely reduced to dry archaeological data. They remind us that the pyramids are not just stones stacked in the desert, but symbols of the human longing for connection, whether with the cosmos, with lost civilizations, or with powers beyond our understanding. Perhaps that is why, thousands of years after their construction, the pyramids remain as mysterious as ever, because they embody both the brilliance of the ancient world and the boundless curiosity of the modern one. There is a theory that the Great Pyramid was never meant to be a tomb at all, but a kind of ancient power plant. People who explore this path point first to the materials. The granite of the king's chamber is rich in quartz, a crystal famous in modern technology for its piezoelectric properties. Squeeze it and it produces a tiny electrical charge. They note the tight tolerances of the chamber blocks, the polished surfaces, the boxy granite sarcophagus, the perfectly straight grand gallery, and then ask whether sound, vibration, or the slow, constant murmurs of the earth could have made those stones sing. If the entire structure were tuned, even slightly, the pyramid might have acted as a resonator. Imagine a desert mountain of stone humming along with the planet's own low rumbles, marshalling energy in ways we no longer understand. Add to that the pyramid's near-perfect alignment to true north, and the suggestion from some researchers that underground water flows beneath the plateau. Water moving through porous limestone can create tiny electrical fields. Quartz will answer vibration with charge. A geometric form can focus or distribute that energy. Slowly, this theory paints the Great Pyramid not as a tomb, but as a machine, a device shaped by stone and geometry to capture earth rhythms and amplify them. The evidence offered often includes the precision of the masonry, the hardness of granite in sacred locations, the strange box-like dimensions of the king's chamber, and the measurable resonances inside the room itself. Tapping or chanting in the chamber can produce prominent, sustained tones. The walls seem to answer back at certain frequencies. From there, the theory expands. If resonance existed, perhaps the Egyptians engineered it on purpose. If they engineered it, perhaps they used it. If they used it, perhaps the pyramid was a kind of energy temple or even a practical power source. Yet there are careful counter-arguments. Piezoelectric effects in quartz are small without strong mechanical stress. A resonating chamber by itself does not generate usable electricity. No wires, distribution systems, or clear artifacts of energy storage have been found at Giza. The shafts and passages, while precise, are not obviously fitted for transmission gear, and granite's use could be ritual, symbolic, or structural rather than technological. Still, the vision is compelling. An ancient civilization building not just in honor of gods, but to harness the whispering current of the earth. A gentler cousin of the power plant idea is the water pump hypothesis, which begins with water instead of electricity. It imagines the pyramid as a monumental hydraulic engine. If seasonal canals once reached the base, if the Nile's floodwaters were coaxed into chambers, if carefully arranged passages created alternating zones of pressure, then perhaps the building could act like a giant ram pump, a device that uses a small amount of falling water to raise a fraction of that water to a higher level. Proponents point to anecdotal reports of moisture marks deep inside, the well-like grotto, and the subterranean chamber as potential parts of a hydraulic system. In a world where the Nile's rising and falling ruled every harvest, a machine that stabilized or elevated water might have been more sacred than any treasure. The counterpoints are brisk. There is no surviving plumbing, no check valves or wear patterns typical of moving water over centuries, and the interior spaces do not match the shapes of known hydraulic apparatus. Yet water leaves its traces in subtle ways, and the plateau's geology is crisscrossed by old channels. Even skeptics admit that groundwater and capillary action can play tricks in limestone. The romance of the idea persists. The Great Pyramid is patient heart, pumping life through stone. A different path follows sound itself. Stand in the king's chamber, and a whisper can seem to hang in the air. Chant a steady tone, and you may feel a tingle in your chest as the room returns the note to you. Slightly larger, slightly stranger. This has inspired the acoustic initiation theory, that the pyramid's inner rooms were designed to alter consciousness. In this view, priests or initiates entered the chamber after fasting and ritual purification. They lay in the granite box or stood in the center, chanting simple vowels that set the granite walls trembling at sympathetic frequencies. The body, awash in standing waves, began to lose its ordinary sense of time and space. Whether or not this happened, it is true that architecture affects the mind. Cathedrals lift our gaze, caves swallow sound, domes multiply whispers. The Great Pyramid's granite chamber, with its parallel walls and stiff resonances, is acoustically unusual. The skeptic's reply is that any rectangular room of reflective stone will have strong modes. Resonance need not imply intention, and yet the Egyptians were masters of ritual. They built for the soul's journey, for the moment of transformation after death. It is not hard to imagine them sensing the chamber's voice and weaving it into ceremony, if not as technology, then as theater for the spirit. Above, the pyramid looks calm. Below, some imagine a different kind of engine. Blend the ideas of water and sound and you arrive at a hybrid. Flowing water, even in small amounts beneath the plateau, sets up a low vibration. That wave travels through limestone into granite. Granite answers in overtones. The chamber breathes those tones into human bodies. Energy in this version is not electricity to light a city, but resonance to light an inner temple. No meters are required, only a human nervous system. The evidence is experiential. Visitors reporting that time feels slow in the king's chamber, that a simple hum seems to grow larger than it should. The counter is pragmatic. Suggestion is powerful. Expectation shapes perception. Sensitive microphones find resonances in many stone rooms. The theory endures, because the experience is real, a room that sings, and because the Egyptians wove experience and meaning with unusual artistry. Far from acoustics and pumps, there is a school that looks outward, to the sky. Here the pyramid is a clock that keeps time not by hours but by millennia. The alignments to true north, the careful angles of the shafts from the king's and so-called queen's chambers, the layout of the three main pyramids in a diagonal, reminiscent of Orion's belt, all of these become dials and pointers for precession, the slow wobble of the Earth's axis over roughly 26,000 years. In one telling, the shafts once targeted specific stars at specific dates, marking a zero point for creation myths and royal cycles. Push further and the sky clock becomes a prophecy. The builders fixed into stone the message that ages turn, floods recur, and the heavens return to old positions with consequences on Earth. Against this, traditional astronomy notes that stellar positions change, and that the shafts are very narrow, their original star targets uncertain, and that even small surveying errors grow large over thousands of years. But the pattern is archetypal, as above so below. A pyramid that is also a calendar makes intuitive sense in a culture that aligned temples, watched heliacal risings, and timed the flood with the first sparkle of Sirius in the dawn. Then there is the magnet that pulls many minds, a lost, older civilization. The argument begins with weathering, the suggestion that some monuments on the plateau, especially the Sphinx enclosure, show patterns of erosion more consistent with heavy rainfall than with mere wind and sand, hinting at a date far older than Khufu's time. If part of the complex is older, perhaps knowledge itself is older. Perhaps the pyramid tradition is not an invention of the Old Kingdom, but a revival, a grand imitation of more ancient forms. In this telling, the Egyptians were heirs to a legacy. The counter-arguments emphasize stratigraphy, inscriptions, quarry marks bearing the names of 4th Dynasty crews, papyri describing stone deliveries to Khufu's project, and the visible evolution of pyramids from mastabas to steps to smooth sides. And yet the longing remains powerful. If there was once a civilization erased by flood or centuries, the pyramids would be perfect survivors, simple in form, extreme in durability, too sacred to dismantle, too massive to move. They would be the message in the bottle thrown far down the river of time. At the far edge of speculation lies a familiar constellation of ideas, visitors from the stars. The argument is emotional as much as logical, that the sheer audacity of raising millions of heavy blocks with Bronze Age tools defies common sense, that the clean alignments and hard stones and mysterious voids require a tutor. This theory feeds on gaps, missing mummies in the Giza pyramids, empty sarcophagi, sealed doors with copper handles in narrow shafts, the newly detected big void above the Grand Gallery. It asks whether those gaps are absences or fingerprints. The reply from archaeology is steady. Ancient ramps, stone tools, quarry marks, worker villages, ration records, the papyrus diary of an overseer moving casing stones along canals, all show a human story. And still the pyramid silence plays tricks on us. They look like radio messages in stone, and our minds are radios always searching for a station. More terrestrial versions of the older knowledge hypothesis explore a different map, a web of sacred sites girdling the planet. Draw lines between Giza and megalithic complexes, an ocean away, and patterns seem to appear, geometric chords arching over a spherical Earth. To believers, this is the skeleton of a global system once known and later forgotten, nodes for ceremony, for navigation, for energy. The critical response warns of selection bias. With enough points on a globe, lines can be drawn to make nearly any pattern. But people genuinely do build in alignment with what they love: mountains, solstice sunrises, star risings. Whether or not a global grid ever existed, local alignments at Giza are beyond dispute. Sides square to the cardinal directions, corners kissing the compass, long causeways angled to celestial events. A pattern exists, even if it is smaller than the world. Underneath every fringe theory lies a psychological truth. The pyramids make us feel. They are impossibly old and undeniably precise. They are both empty and full, empty of bodies at Giza, full of intention everywhere you look. They reveal themselves reluctantly, a graffiti team name hidden in a relieving chamber, a papyrus logbook suddenly saved from decay, a cosmic ray image sketching a space no eye has seen in 45 centuries. Certainty grows slowly. The mind does what it always does in the long dusk before answers. It tells stories. Some of those stories speak of pumps and power and resonance. Some of calendars, some of floods, some of stars. What keeps these theories alive is not only mystery but meaning. A power plant pyramid promises that the ancients were practical geniuses who could tap nature's rhythms. A water pump pyramid imagines a civilization using architecture to cradle life itself. An acoustic temple invites us to feel that sacredness is not metaphor but vibration, a real wave that passes through bone and blood. A sky clock pyramid tells us that the human place in the cosmos was once known and honored, that time was a circle and monuments were its markers. A lost civilization pyramid whispers that history is deeper than we think, that wisdom can be buried and found again. Even the star visitor story is a mirror of human longing, that we are not alone, and that someone once cared enough to guide our hands. Set all these side by side with what archaeology has carefully, patiently revealed: quarries still scarred, workers' graves, bakeries and breweries at the builder's town, the diary of stone shipments, the science of muons tracing voids, and a fuller picture emerges. The pyramids can be human and mysterious at once. They can be tombs and theaters of sound. They can be aligned to the stars and still raised by calloused hands. They can hold voids that are structural and symbolic. They can be everything we know and a little more than that, because great works always are. The pyramids are more than stone. They are mysteries carved into the earth, whispers of the past, vessels of eternity. They are the convergence of science, faith, and imagination. Every stone placed, every chamber carved, every alignment with the stars speaks to a civilization that dreamed not just of life after death, but of permanence, precision, and transcendence. Whether we ever fully understand them or not, they continue to teach us about human ingenuity, ambition, and the enduring quest for knowledge. Perhaps, in the quiet of the night, if you close your eyes and picture the pyramids under a star-filled sky, you can feel a fragment of their power. You can imagine the scale, the mystery, and the wonder. You may not find all the answers, and perhaps that is the point. The pyramids endure not just because of stone, but because they are questions in form, challenges to the imagination, eternal reminders that some things, no matter how closely we study them, remain beautiful and unknowable. And as sleep begins to pull you deeper into dreams, let the pyramids stand as silent guardians, ancient and unyielding, holding secrets across the millennia. Their mysteries are vast, their stories unending, and their presence eternal. They are monuments of humanity, monuments of mystery, and monuments that remind us that even when we think we know, there is always more waiting to be discovered, just beyond the horizon of understanding. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, consider subscribing and commenting your thoughts or theories on the Egyptian pyramids. Sweet dreams and good night.